Hey, what's up guys? Tony here, and I am bringing you another retrospective commentary. And of course it's iRacing, as you can see, and we are on the next week. We're here at Watkins Glen, the boot, and so right now we're going green. What's really nice about this race that I want to get out of the way really quickly is that this race is really exciting for me, not only because I qualified second place, but because I've got two friends behind me. We're not like an official racing team, but I like to consider ourselves a team because we have the same paint scheme. So I like to think of it as a team. But my buddy Andy is behind me in third place, and in fourth place is my buddy Tim, who was in my last video. Anyways, we all had a pretty tight race, and it's really something special when you have some friends with you in TeamSpeak, and you guys can all share in the same race. And it's sort of I don't know. You're just sharing it. I can't quite put it any other way besides that. The other bit of business I want to get to before I just get into the retrospective commentary part of this video is that I've decided on Tuesdays. Tuesdays are going to be my race days. With school and my requirements as a grad student, I have to put a lot of time into school, and so I don't really get a lot of free time to go ahead and make videos. And I've been making this video for the last few days now, well actually the last 24 hours since it's Wednesday as I'm recording this. But what I want to do now is I want to start streaming on Tuesdays, and I'll probably only do 2 races on Tuesdays, so a 10 o'clock Pacific and a noon Pacific. And I could put I'll put my Twitch channel in the description if you guys are interested in watching some streams. The first race was amazing. I actually had, for me, a lot of viewers, which 7 viewers I think it was, and one fairly decent sized YouTuber was there, and I was pretty stoked to find out after the fact that he was there, because I didn't know he was there until after the race, because obviously I was racing. So it was like, oh my god, that's awesome, he came to watch my race. The bad part is that I didn't set up the stream properly, so there was no sound. It was just me, and I didn't set up the voice, the decibel gate, so you heard me just like grunting and groaning as I'm sitting here driving, and it was kind of embarrassing. So anyways, Tuesdays, I want to start streaming every Tuesday. Would be my race day. So it'll be about 10 o'clock and noon. Those are the 2 races I know that I'm going to get into for sure. And I doubt it'll be any more than that, but I'll keep you updated. So if you're interested in watching some live racing, I'm going to put that up on my Twitch channel. So let's get back into the race. So in my mirror, I've got Andy in my mirror, and I know he's a far better driver than I am. He's very fast. He's a couple divisions higher than me. And more important than that, he's actually a driver in real life. He's a kart driver. Not a professional, but I mean he's an actual kart racer. He does it for reals in Germany. So in the back of my mind, I'm going, okay, well Andy's behind me, and I can see him in my rearview mirror. I'm like, okay. I do tell him at one point, I said, hey, look, if you're going to go for a pass, just let me know, and I'll let you go by. Because the way it has been for me, and I mentioned in my last video, is that I'm usually the middle of the pack kind of driver. Very rarely am I up here in first and second. And so, although I do feel very confident in my abilities to stay up here, I am also very cognizant to the fact that there are a lot faster drivers than me out there. And with Brands Hatch, my safety rating took a huge plummet, so there's a part of me that is playing it safe. I want to play it safe. I want my safety rating to go up. Ideally, I'd like to get it up near 4. Doesn't necessarily have to be at 4, but when I was at a 3.9 before the start of Brands Hatch, and at the end of that week, I dropped down to a 3.3. It was murder on my safety rating. So we saw him get a little wiggle right there, and it's giving me hope that I can actually keep up with this guy and reel him in. And I had been noticing, and I actually hadn't noticed it before, I have no idea why, but I had noticed that I was catching this guy on the straights, and I was getting into his slipstream, and I was really pulling hard on him. And so I kept saying, I think I kept saying in the stream, and well, to Andy and to Tim, who I was talking to in TeamSpeak, if I can keep him close, if I can get within less than a half a second going into turn 1, I'll be able to pass him on that straightaway. And so that's been my goal up to this point. It was like, just stay close to him, because at first I thought my setup was just faster than his, because this setup that I picked up, I practiced with a setup that I had put together myself. Terrible, like terrible. It's just a hard to control car. And then I bit the bullet, went on the forums, and I downloaded a couple of setups that some guys have already put together, slapped them on there. I don't remember whose setup it was, but I tried the 2 that I downloaded. I liked one of them, and I went with it. And I got a qualification time. I said qualified at like 147.1 something. And so that was good enough to put me into second place. This guy qualified as a 146. And I don't think he actually even touched 146 during the race. We were pretty much 147s the whole time. But like I was saying, I want to get closer. I want to be able to get closer to him so I can pull and pass him by and get in the slipstream. And so that's right. When I start seeing stuff like this, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm really pulling. I'm reeling him in. And as long as I can get to that point, I think I could take him. Because so far, following him, I'm realizing that we've got similar lines. He's not really getting away from me. I'm not really pulling on him. So if I can get past him, and maybe I can keep a half-second distance between us, then I could stand a real chance of getting some lead laps in, which for me is amazing. I never once thought I would even become this close. Like last week, I got this close to first place, except for when Richard got in the way and he decided to take off and win the race. But I never really thought that I would get this close to first place. And the last 2 weeks have showed me, if I'm in the right division, if I'm in the right splits, I have a chance to get really close to winning, and I haven't had the opportunity yet to see if I can win at this particular level. And like, I think the I rating was like 1200 and something for this race. So, you know, for Division 6, that's what it is. You know, it's not the best and it's not the worst. It's, you know, for me, it's where I belong right now. I like that runoff. Everyone uses that runoff. But now I'm in a position where I really wanted to be a lot closer than him, and I'm noticing like, shit, I'm not as close as I want to be. But like I said, in the back of my mind, I know I'm going to pull on him and get closer. So I'm constantly thinking about how I can stay up with him during the rest of the track, because I know I can pull on him. I just get in the slipstream and I'll pull on him. So that's not really a problem, but the problem is like this turn, maintaining good speed through this turn and not letting him get ahead of me. Things like that. Just racing a tighter race overall, and staying within him. Like I said, like within a half a second or something like that. I really want to start getting in close. Not doing off tracks like that. That's bad. That's not going to get you up in the first place. But like I was mentioning last week, capitalizing on mistakes. And so if I was closer, that would have been a perfect opportunity to pass, because obviously he went wide and slowed way down. But I wasn't in the right spot to go ahead and pass him. But more importantly, though, even though I didn't get a chance to pass, the important part about that is the fact that I was able to close the gap like I've been wanting to do. I was actually having a lot of trouble with those last 2 turns in practice. Something, I don't know why, but I just was. And this is pretty much the place that I wanted to be all race long. And I'm right here. I'm like, okay, this is exactly where I want to be. And if I get the opportunity, I'm definitely going to make my pass. All right, and there it is. I'm right up on his ass, and now I was kind of expecting to go right by him, but we are neck and neck going into the turn, and he concedes the turn to me, which surprised me. But I think that right there, I was on the inside line, and I think right there that's a telltale sign of a smart driver, because I think, given the situation, I probably would do the same. It's very dangerous to try to fight over that at a high speed that would wreck us both. And even though I think bio rights, it's one of those things. Bio rights, I think because I was on the inside, I think he gave me the turn, obviously, because he's not going to go and fight for it and cause a wreck. But he still had a little bit on me, as far as maybe like a quarter of a car length on me. But anyway, so he gave up the corner. So now I'm in first place. Now my heart is racing. And for all 7 viewers of the stream, I'm pretty sure their hearts were racing too. So something I had mentioned last week about, being in first place, the times that I have been in first place, or just when you have people following you, you tend to look behind you and slow down. One thing I did notice from the race is that although I did look behind me and look at my rearview mirror, I did look at the relative box, I really didn't allow that to affect me. I was just concentrating really on getting through like the chicanes here, trying to nail this turn. I became more focused upon like smaller tasks in the race, and I think that allowed me to focus upon my driving and not necessarily worry about, oh, is he pulling in on me? Is he getting close? That kind of stuff. I think it also gave me a little bit of confidence too, now that I think about it, that Andy was back there, because like I said, Andy is a really good driver. His iRating is, I'm not entirely sure what his iRating is. It's definitely higher than I am by a fair amount. But because I know he's a fast driver, he's back there, and I'm expecting him to sort of distract the guy behind me. This guy Daniel, I'm really expecting him to distract Daniel and to give him something to worry about, and not focus solely on me and trying to pass me. I wanted him to worry about getting past himself. And ideally, what I really wanted was Andy to make the pass, so it'd be him and I up front, and so at least we could have, quote, teammates 1 and 2 as a buffer. So at least one of us can win. Like if I mess up, then he can make the pass and I can stay behind him and be a buffer for him. Or he could stay behind me and, I don't want to say allow me to win, but I mean stay behind me and just sort of protect me from anyone else who wants to make a pass. So like when I made my pass, I was using the slipstream, he was using the slipstream, Andy's way back there in my rearview mirror, and there's nothing I can do. He's on the inside passing, and I, like he did before, gave him the corner. However, unlike him, I wasn't content with getting past. I didn't give him that much room, and so right here, and he goes wide. I really fight for this corner, and Andy was pretty excited about watching this pass happen right here, because I didn't let it go. I was like, you know what? No, I'm fighting for this corner. I'm fighting for this position, and I do that, and I got a pretty sweet pass out of it right there. This was scary right here. I was like, shit, this is gonna cause a wreck, and we actually all missed. Andy screamed. Oh my God, he was just like, oh my God. He got a little excited back there, but that right there was like, holy crap, man, that was pretty intense. That could have ended badly for us, 1, 2, 3 drivers up front, because some guy who's getting lapped spins out, and there's nothing. I mean, he spun out. It's nothing that we could do about it. But what it did do for me, thankfully, is if you look in the rearview mirror, it provided a huge buffer for me. I was able to skate by just that near miss right there, and I think I pulled to like a 1.5 seconds or something of a lead. So I'm hoping from this point on, my hope is that this guy Daniel could be out of the slipstream. That way he won't be able to pull on me. So it'll be pure driver on driver, and he'll have Andy back there to worry about. And so I'm looking to one, just put laps down as fast as I can, and two, maintain my distance. That's really what I'm working on right now, is not trying to increase my lead, although if I can increase my lead, boom, bonus points. But I'm really worried about not really worried, that's a bad word for it. I'm really concentrating on maintaining the lead that I have, and that's what I'm working on from this point forward in the race. So I was watching him sort of close the gap towards the end of that lap, and it kind of got me a little bit fired up. I was like, okay, I really need to start hitting these turns. They need to kind of come through. You see me braking a little bit harder right there, try to make that turn without going so wide. Again, like I was saying this last lap, my goal is to maintain the lead that I have, and to make sure that I've got a good distance between him and I right here, so that way he can't jump in the slipstream and just gobble up all that distance that I had put between us. And he's about the same. He's about where I want him to be right now. That turn right there, I kind of shit myself a couple of times on it, because in practice I had worked on a little bit closer of a braking distance, just sort of compressing that down so I can get through that turn a little faster. But when I get into race conditions, I fall back into a tendency of sort of a safe rhythm. That's kind of what I do. I'm comfortable racing at a certain pace. In practice I really push it, and I usually have really bad practice sessions. I'll spin out, I'll crash a lot. But the whole time I'm really looking to push my limits to see how fast I can get through certain turns. And I don't try to experiment like in the middle of a race. I want to make sure that when I'm racing as consistently as I can, and not do something that I haven't done before in a race, because then you might wreck or spin out or something like that. It was about at this point, this is kind of usually where I quickly glance at the time. I noticed that we are well beyond the halfway mark. And so I am looking at my time, I'm looking at the distance between myself and Daniel back behind me, and I'm liking where I'm standing. The only problem that I have right now is fuel, because I loaded up with 15.9 gallons of fuel. and I would check periodically. I would be checking to see how much fuel I had left, and I was getting into the single-digit laps and going into this last half of the race, and I'm mentally calculating it's almost 2 minutes per lap, and we have got about, I don't know, 10 minutes left of the race or so, and it's one of those things where I'm just like, okay, I don't know if I have enough fuel or not. You know, you can guess about 5, you know, when you're looking at the laps, and so I'm calculating ahead. I'm just like, holy shit, I might run out of fuel. And so fuel consumption starts to creep into the back of my mind. I'm like, okay, well, I'm racing a good, consistent race right now. I feel pretty solid about where I'm at. I'm keeping Daniel back here behind me. We've got a pretty good gap going on. I'm very, very, very confident in where I'm at right now. I am getting a little aggressive at times, like you just saw right there. But that's just the nature of who I am as a driver. But the thing is, though, is that fuel consumption creeps into my head. And we had all talked about fuel consumption before the race started. We're like, okay, how many gallons are we taking? So 15.9 was we're like, yeah, that should be good. You know, because we'd raced here before with the McLarens, and that's about the fuel that I remember using. But it became very, very apparent that I would be getting dangerously close to running out of fuel at the end of the race. So there was a point where later on in the race, I make the choice. I'm just like, you know what? Either I'm going to finish, I'm going to have pretty much no fuel left, or I'm going to run out of gas. So those are the choices that I have. So I decided to just race as hard as I could until I ran out of fuel. And I mean, it was a choice that I ultimately made, but at this point in the race, I hadn't made that choice. I was still sort of kind of going over this, like, how much fuel do I have left? Will I be able to make it on this much fuel? It was very much in question. But now I started to notice that Devin is starting to creep up on me. And we're he's closed the gap down to about a little less than a second. And this is a position that I don't want to be in, because he's going to easily pull on me and probably pull 3 or 4 tenths and just close this gap. And so now here's the other thing we're doing. We're coming up on lap traffic. And so lap traffic is good for a couple of things. One, it's good for a barrier. It's good for a buffer if you don't run into them in the wrong places. So it's good for that. So it's good to block your opponent. So yeah, I guess it's really only good for one thing. It's good for blocking your opponent. The thing is, it's bad because they can block you, and so now Daniel gets a break right there. So he's on my ass, and because of lap traffic, we got that orange car, and so now I'm like, okay, I really got to hammer down right now. I need to make that gap, widen that gap. I don't think it's gonna happen, just because of the fact that I'm already gearing up in my head that I'm going to get passed on the straightaway. So now I'm kind of thinking, okay, I need to make sure that after he passes me, I close the gap. And then this happens. He played it really aggressively, went into that turn, and spun me out. The great thing about Daniel and the sportsmanship in general is he was like hammering the sorry button. So in the chat, it was like, sorry. And I told him, I can't remember what I said in the stream. I'll put it at the end of the video. I'll show you guys some of the things at the end of the video. But I said some things after that happened. And so I just told him, I went on the chat and I was just like, hey, no worries, Daniel. Shit happens, basically. So I've got the number 32 car in my way again. And so there, made quick work of that lap car. And now I found myself in first place, thinking that I'm going to win the race. Not really. I won't mean to be that confident, but I felt really confident about having my chances in winning that race. So I was there, first place, here we've got 7 minutes left in the race, and so essentially you're looking at four laps or so, and now I'm in third place, chasing Andy with a slightly damaged car. I can feel the wheel is not as responsive going into the left-hand turns, and so you'll see me get a little apprehensive. My lap times dropped from 147s to 148s. I'm just kind of, I want to catch up to Andy. There's a part of me that's just like, I'm going to catch Andy. I want to catch Andy. I want to see if he and I could plow forward together and catch up to Daniel, because he's got a significant lead now. His lead jumped to like 6 seconds. And I'm a good second and a half, 2 seconds behind Andy right now. And so I got a damaged car, slightly damaged car. I've got 2 really good drivers ahead of me, and the chances of me actually catching these 2 are pretty slim to none. And then again, with the fuel at this point, I'm like, okay, well, I got a podium finish going on here. I'm not entirely sure that I'm going to finish the race. So I do start to play a little fuel management. I start to, I think it was like a lap, maybe a lap or a lap and a half, where I'm, like short shifting, I'm not really giving it all. But what I did notice is that the guy who was in 4th place was creeping up on me ever so quickly. So the idea of fuel management, and this, like I mentioned earlier, I had thought to myself, oh, well, I'll save fuel. And then I thought, oh no, I'm either going to run out of gas or I'm going to finish the race. And it was about around this point in the race where I decided, I'm like, all right, I'm going to finish the race. If I run out of gas, I'll need someone to push me across the finish line. But I'm not giving that guy in 4th place an opportunity to catch up, because he was significantly behind us. He was like 3 or 4, 5 seconds, maybe even more. So when he started to creep in around the 3-second range, I'm like, oh, nope, that can't happen. I need to put pedal to metal and keep chugging along. And if I run out of fuel, I run out of fuel. If I finish the race, great. But I'm really gonna die going down with my foot on the pedal, and that's what I do from here on out. I thought that was kind of funny. I don't know exactly why that happened, but I guess I've just totally followed Andy right into the wall. And so I further damaged my car even more. Andy was just like, the car wouldn't turn. And I said the same thing, like, the car wouldn't fucking turn. What was that all about? And he's like, I don't know. It was weird. And so I could see what I did there. I got on the throttle a little too soon, and I forced my car wide. But now I'm dealing with slight damage on the left, fairly significant damage on my right-hand side. I'm glad that I didn't damage my car to the point where I actually had to go to the pits and be out of the race. But the car was noticeably damaged, and that also added to the fact, added to the overall problems with my car, and my lap time suffered because of that. But anyways, it was like I said earlier, it was at this point. I know the race is coming to a close. We've got about 3.5 minutes left or so of the race, and there's really nothing to fight for except for 3rd place. So I'm going to do what I can to maintain my 3rd place position, and hopefully not spin out and avoid lap traffic like this guy coming up in the McLaren. Thankfully, though, he stays slow and he stays pretty much out of the way. Thankfully, you can start to see in the rearview mirror where the 4th place guy is starting to creep into my line of sight. And so, like I said, I'm not gonna get off the podium. I'm staying on the podium. I'm determined to stay on the podium. That's the guy that I had passed in that video a couple of videos back about my pass at Silverstone. And so there we go. That was the race right there. First, started second, got 7 laps in as the leader, and I got an unfortunate incident that the guy Daniel hit me. But we finished with half of a gallon of fuel left. I was like, damn, that got timed perfectly. Okay, so anyways, here we go. This is the race report for Watkins Glen International. Starting position was 2nd place. I finished in 3rd place. I had 7 laps as leader. My average lap time was 1:48.614. Fastest lap time was 1:47.171. And I qualified with 1:47.158. And we raced 17 laps, and I had 8 incidences for the race. So my safety rating took another hit. But I realized that the way I am, I race to be competitive, and so if my safety rating does take a hit, I'm kind of okay with that. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And I'm going to show you guys cinematic sort of replay of the highlights of the race after the fact here. Oh no! Oh. I just got hit.